I'm Vincent Morisset.
I'm Caroline Robert.
And we have a studio called AATOAA. That means yours or your turn. And we have, so the studio is us. And we collaborate with other people depending of the nature of the project. Maybe we can sleep.
Ouais, je pense que ça va.
Not even.
Murphy Law. Non, c'est bon.
Okay, so this is our studio. It's on the second floor of our house. And we have this secret passage in the closet that makes some kind of portal, psychological portal between our family life and work.
And this is Edouard Langto-Benoit, who was coder with us for a long time on many of our projects.
So like we've been around for a long time. We started doing web-based interactive films. I founded the studio in 2007. And at one point, we started to adapt some of the web project into the physical space. So this was an exhibition, like this was a website that we transformed into a full-on exhibition at the Gaieté Lyrique in Paris. And from that moment where we kind of got out of the browser, we kind of never stopped going back and forth from the digital to the tangible. Over the years, we've collaborated with a lot of music artists, Arcade Fire, Sigur Rós, Skrillex. The video that you see here is Neon Bible by Arcade Fire, and it's known for being the first interactive music video. And it's kind of an homage to Méliès with this kind of illusion and magic trick and a transformation of the relation with images. We've created artwork, documentaries, weird web projects, interactive films. This interactive online video was for Sprawl 2, where you were controlling and transforming the choreography by dancing in front of your webcam. We've always been interested in using lo-fi mechanism and really advanced technology, but for us, the idea is just to create meaningful interactivity and to use that as a way to open emotional windows to the people.
We were generalists, so I have a background in graphic design, and I also studied photography and illustration, but now I do set design, I do editing, I do a lot of things. And Vincent has a background in film and multimedia, but we always work together and we touch a lot of areas, so we do everything by ourselves. So we often jump into things that we don't really know. For an example, on this project, we learn how to play with high-density concrete and pigments to make a monumental bench in a public park where a lot of skaters go. And this bench became our interface, but there was no technology in it. So the bench was interfaced for an interactive projection at the Peace Park in Montreal. And depending on the use of the bench, the outcome would change. So the visitor became forces that would transform imaginary tectonic plates. And it was always creating new stratas on the past. So you would create and destroy something at the same time. And we wanted to catalyze the ephemeral encounters and social dynamics between the people that will stay in the park or just visiting in the park.
This project is called Way to Go. It was released online as a web VR project in 2015. It was premiered at Sundance. And the idea was to bridge film and video game grammars and create some kind of bastard child from those two. So we started to work on this project prior to the release of the SDK Oculus headset and the democratization of virtual reality. But the idea was to use 360 video capture in movement. So this is me walking with this stabilized 360 rig and this kind of metronome in my back, kind of giving me the pace to kind of walk on a steady rhythm. And so basically what we do is that we give the illusion that we move in space, but basically we're moving in time. We're kind of, when we advance, we're basically running in a 360 video and in a timeline and giving the illusion that we're basically moving in space. We pair this concept with traditional animation that we mapped into a 3D world with HTML5 and WebGIS. So again, using lo-fi, crafty stuff with advanced technology. This is a little excerpt of the project. So this is us. Philippe Lambert, the music composer, Edouard Langto-Benoit, the coder, Caroline, and I, in an improbable shooting crew in the woods of Eastern Township in Quebec. So in addition to be the shooting crew, since we couldn't hide, it's 360, we became these characters in the project, and as we, with the limitation of this medium, we had to kind of find inventive ways to integrate these. When we were shooting in that area, we bumped into a hiker that looked at us, and I think he was thinking that we were a Satanist cult or something like that, because we were really far in the wood, and he was like, who are these weirdos? So Caroline went also hunting for beautiful moments of nature to create this huge collection of nature documentary clips. So finding, so we were looking through the eyes of the main character into this kind of lens. So insects, animals, plants, rocks, all those treasures are hidden in the project, and they change each time you do the journey. So it's really kind of a treasure hunt where you stop at any point and you're able to discover these kind of really small videos. And you can also see some other details through the vision of the animals. So the idea was to put the people into this kind of ultra lucidity mindset and just kind of take your time, and as you stop and look, you discover these beautiful little details. And if you walk and run, it's also exhilarating, but it's another feeling. So it was this idea, like I'm a birder, like I've been passionate about birds, and I wanted to kind of share this idea of just kind of, you step back, you take your time, and you unfold, you discover. Philippe Lambert wrote the music using Euclidean rhythm that can change and be adapted on the pace of the character. So if the character walks or stop or run, the music will change dynamically. So Edouard developed this custom interface in the browser so that Philippe could compose the music and sculpt in some way the musical soundscape. And Caroline then saw what Edouard did for Philippe and say she wanted also some kind of interface to be able to integrate her handmade visuals into the browser and create the visual environment of Way to Go. So for example, these inks on paper are becoming these kind of northern lights in the sky. So on the right, we can see all these little sliders that allow Caroline to change how the forests look, how the sky looks, how the ground change, and as when you were happy, you were gonna
I would have a preset, like a text file.
Yeah.
That's it.
So this is another example of a tool that Edouard developed to create these landscapes. And on the top left, we can see this was what was it?
Inks, like black Chinese ink on the paper, that would become some kind of UV map to create like ground levels for the mountains and landscape.
Yeah. So just a little splot on a paper would become could be changed into mountain, just a bit of algorithms. So I switch to you for another project.
So the next project we wanted to show is called Moto. It's an intimate participative experience where we blur the line between reality and fiction. It's a mix between a book, a film, and some kind of a scavenger hunt. And this is the trailer. So the main character is basically talking to you with text and video, and sometimes asking you to shoot tiny videos of what's around you in your surroundings. And this time again, we wanted to put people in some kind of a hyperlucid state of mind about their environment. A little bit like when you're traveling in a new city. Your eyes become like soft in some ways, that can see things that you never see in your own city.
That was us this morning when we were in Milan.
So we wanted to make them look at their surroundings closely and rediscover their houses, their neighborhood through this kind of different lens. So the video that you send becomes part of the film and fit the mythology and the memories of the characters in the story, and tiny details of everyday life becomes special in some ways. So since the very beginning, we wanted to create a story that would be filled with raw footage, something that feels really and spontaneous, because when we developed the film, it was the apology of Instagram filters and like perfect like framing of images, like everything was super standardized, and we wanted to have something that feels spontaneous and not staged in some ways. So we wanted to reveal hidden gems that were in ordinary life. And we also decided since the very beginning that all the videos would be anonymous for two main reasons. So the first one that was that we don't share much intimate things online, like personally, and we wanted to respect people's privacy, but making their face anonymous and letting people decide what they wanted to share. So we have moderation also in the website, so everything is moderated. So the square mask became part of the story and also a great canvas to play with. And the second reason, we also wanted to put people in a mindset to shoot authentic footage and not being too self-conscious and avoid like performance pressure of shooting themselves or shooting people perfectly, something perfectly, and we wanted them to shoot just spontaneously. Then the first thing that we did was to classify our own video archives to see if we could create some kind of collections of families, of recurrent scenes or subjects that could be broadened like worldwide. And we wanted to try to pinpoint what could be found everywhere in the world, like the sun, shadows, trees, chairs, I don't know, name it, hands. And we create some kind of scavenger hunt list that became a guideline in some ways to write the story. So we determined the locations and the subjects before the story was even written. Then we built a bunch of interactive prototypes that would enhance or take advantage of the qualities of each of these collections. And we developed a tool to edit the film in real time by calling tags instead of specific videos. So we would call families instead. For example, I would call me a sky, and then a shadow, and then something magic. And it would create an editing out of those families. And at this point, we knew it would be text and video based and live recording, and that the editing would change and evolve through time. So we asked a great Canadian novelist, Shawn Michaels, who is a friend now, and we asked him to jump and to write the story with us. So Modo ended up being structured in 6 episodes of 20 minutes that you can decide to do indoor or outdoor and whatever you want. And Sean worked from the prototypes and the list of that we built to write the story. For instance, we liked to ask participants to shoot their hands in different contexts because it's something that is really universal. And we also really love the hand because it tells a lot without seeing the face of the people, I think, and the way they move. The way you move your hand is really like super personal too. And it inspired Sean to build the story from that. And we digged online, and he found a hand sculpture in Chile by Mario Irarrázaval, and decided to make it part of the story. And a couple of months later, Vincent went shooting with his phone in the Atacama Desert and in a wedding in Chile to bring back some footage that would become part of the story. And we also went to the archives of the Canadian Museum of Nature in Ottawa to shoot specific things that we needed for the editing too. For example, a horse skeleton, rocks, mosses, lichens. And we also asked friends that were spread worldwide to shoot things that we needed. For example, I have a friend, Sylvain, who lives in Berlin, and I wanted to have footage of a specific sculpture, like the Pharaoh Akhenaten at the museum, the News Museum in Berlin. So I asked him to go and shoot specific scenes in the museum. So everything you see is a mix of videos shot by our team and videos shot by people around the world who did Moto. And even if it's an intimate experience, you wanted the participant to feel that they are part of something that is bigger, and feeling that they belong and share a special bond with other participants. For example, we asked people to draw the sculpture of the pharaoh, and in the story, sometimes one of the main characters is a woman, and sometimes it's a guy, but it's random, so you never know which one is which. So when they draw the face of the pharaoh, sometimes they think it's a woman, sometimes they think it's a guy, and by the drawing you can tell which one it is, because it creates some kind of a bias in your mind, so you draw it differently. So Moto was released in May 2020, so at the very beginning of the pandemic. And for us also, it was really touching to see all those intimate spaces, and made us travel through other people's eyes and feel proximity when we were alone. And it was a lot of feedback that we got from the project. Like, people really loved to see others' windows, others' intimate spaces without intrude in their homes. So you can check it for free on a mobile. It's online.
No installation, just boom, it starts.
Web-based.
And you could do it on your way back home today or tomorrow.
Whenever you want.
The next project I want to present is called Composition. We created composition in the context of an artist residency at the Phi Center in Montreal. Again, during the pandemic, we had carte blanche, a space, an income, a logistical support. It was kind of a dream context for us during a moment where were all stuck home. We had the opportunity to create something from scratch. We had a desire to create a project that was at the intersection of a multitude of disciplines, explore the physicality and blur the line between the physical and the digital, and this idea of manipulating object on a table with other people. So that was the premise. We used video mapping and dynamic music. And so it was kind of the idea of a different take on mixed reality. At the beginning of the residency, we bring different accessories to play with and experiment with different ideas of construction, manipulation, and transformation, and try to see which path or which idea would kind of be the most interesting. One of the things that we brought home were little wood cubes, a collection of cubes. We had these blank cubes at home, where each time some friends were coming with their kids, I would ask the kids to take a blank cube and to draw faces on each of the 6 faces and to draw some kind of different emotions on each of them. So we had this broad collection of cubes from home, from all the kids of our friends. And the more we played with these multifaceted cubes, the more we saw the potential of creating a multitude of scenes, choreography, characters, and by Caroline, inspired by all this, like all over the places.
Yeah, all the cubes you've seen before was drawings that I made from those inspiration. It was not like the kids' drawing,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
it was really inspired from the kids' drawing.
And the cube became some kind of unit, as note on a musical score, as junction of body parts, or landscape. This is kind of early test that we were doing at the residency, and we can see these are the cubes from the kids that we bring from home. And then, depending on the perspective we took on the project, composition could be a musical instrument, a sculpture, an animation film, a board game, a miniature world. This idea of blurring the line between genres was interesting for us. And by changing the way we read the composition, sometimes it's linear, sometimes it's radial, or sometimes it's like a ping pong, we would change how the same cubes would generate different kind of music. And for us, it was really important that anybody, even if you don't have any musical skills, the project would sound good. And also that there is a really clear understanding of what you're doing. So it sounds good, but you still have a clear sound cause and effect. So you can do groups, towers, single cubes, and each one change the behavior and the sound that you do. We collaborated with V-Looper, who is a hip-hop producer from Quebec City. So this is another example from the development scene, but this idea also that depending of who you are, it can be really chaotic, really methodic, but composition will adapt at any point. With our millimeter precise system, there is no need of glass or device or headset. This idea of just kind of engaging with the physical world with something like just really primitive, like wood cubes and on a table, and kind of changing, transforming this miniature world was something that we thought was quite satisfying. You're recognizing Miriam here. I think she visited the meet, yes. Here I will show you another example of a bird view from the table, and maybe we can push a bit more volume, please. cubes, but just the way we transform and read those cubes, we can evolve into something different. We want to develop also a version that instead of cubes, human being could be in a physical space and become literally the musical score. This idea of transforming the musical ritual where the people inside a venue are becoming, in some way, the music. Here's another example, and tag team.
Yes. So Brainstream is an interactive animated film in which a young girl live streams her thoughts. Here is the trailer. Whoops.
Hi, welcome to my brain. Thanks for coming. My whole head's been spinning since this morning. A lot of the time, my feelings are super intense, but from the outside, you can't even tell. I have a pretty good feeling with you. Help me. Give me a big swing. I guess I must trust you a lot, showing you all my little beasties like this. I get stuck in a loop, like I'm going round in a dryer forever. I can tell what you do helps me, even if I don't really get it.
Yeah. So when we had our daughter, I started to read a lot about child's brain because I wanted to understand how she was experiencing things. And then pandemic hits, and I wanted to know more about how we experience anxiety and fear, and how we get stuck in reinforced patterns. So I was fascinated by how brain works, and in my film I wanted to talk about it and approach it, but with humor and levity. And what was mainly fascinating for me is how the brain is able to change and learn by practice and by looking at your thoughts sideways or with a different perspective. And at that time, I kept recalling a failed experiment that we did in 2009 for BLA BLA. And we did some kind of what we call the pizza. It was some kind of a circle animated drawing. And the idea was to make a non-linear 2D animation. But we quickly rejected this direction because it was limited to the quantity of drawings I was able to process in my mind and I was able to draw. But I kept it in the back of my mind, and it remembered me a lot of how the brain works, and because it's always slowly transforming and shifting into another thoughts, and it never ends. So I really wanted to do something with that. And so 10 years later, this fail came back to life, and I asked Edouard to build a twin engine that will allow us to morph any vector drawing into another drawing in real time. And this was the first prototype, and then we added a lot of variations to morph from each scene to another, changing the velocity, the curves, the transition, etc. I animated a lot of loops with an iPad app called Loom and Animate CC. And I exported all those drawings in SVG files. Sorry, it's really technical, but for some people, I know it's really interesting. And then I animated them through code directly in the browser. So I really wanted the participant to feel that the 2D animations actually were the brain waves of the character. So make it fluid, unpredictable, and unconstrained by a timeline. And I wanted the experience to be really sensory and relaxing, almost like some kind of ASMR visual kind of thing. And in the evenings, I was reading a lot of sci-fi, especially William Gibson. And I was really mesmerized by his SimStim technology. And basically, it broadcasts someone's sensorium and sensory inputs, so you can just feel what someone else is feeling. And I was definitely influenced also by the movie Total Recall, which is one of the movies that marked me the most as a child, because it's insane, and also because it's an introspective adventure that begins after the hero, Douglas Quaid, recalls a memory that was erased from his brain. So that was really, I thought it was something really powerful there. And all those sci-fi readings probably planted this question in my mind. I was like, what if all the energy that we spend on our screens every day, like touching our phones, or I don't know, what if all this energy collectively could be harvested and transformed into something useful that could help someone? That's all this energy that could be just like become some kind of energy ball that will make something good. And for me, the logic answer was a brain massage. So in the story, just touching your screen or moving your cursor around sends shots of serotonin to the character and helps her visiting new cognitive pathways. And just this tiny gesture become really gratifying and meaningful. And her brain activity become really tangible, as if it was some kind of physical thing. And her thoughts are like really like a living matter that reacts to your touch in real time, as if it was almost magnetic to your finger. So she feels your touch and responds to it, to any behavior you do. Like if you go crazy, it will go crazy. And if you're soft, it will be super fluid. And she is guiding you, and you pass through all her emotions without restraints. And sometimes we even visit her most invasive thoughts, but also always with comic relief, just to create some kind of emotional outlet where you can just laugh about it. And the film is intimate, but you also have a sense of being with a community, a bit like a Twitch, because you are with other participants, like everybody that is online, you can see their cursor at some point. And you feel the presence and the support of other people connected at the same time as you, but in a safe space where nobody can hurt anyone. And you have the feeling that all your tiny gestures combined together generate this collective, powerful energy that helps the main character. So the film is 5 or 20 minutes, because you can be busy. But 20 minutes is best, but it's intimate and silly at the same time, and I hope you'll try it. Otherwise, you can send us complaints and everything.
The last project we want to share with you is called Vast Body. It's an exploration on human body, about movement, identity, empathy, and also our relation with other than human intelligence. Through some kind of magic mirror, Vast Body connects the physical body with the dynamic video incarnation, offering the chance to briefly inhabit someone else through movement. Through history and technology evolution, we've continuously revisit how we represent and understand the human body. So when we started to experiment and explore the potential of machine learning and the evolution of computer vision, it was for us an opportunity to kind of re-explore, revisit this premise. There's something quite fascinating and interesting into these sketches of Bauhaus that reminds us quite clearly about the AI, computer vision, mechanic of detection. We've been working with computer vision over the last decade. For a long time, we had the desire to explore a project where the gesture would become the foundation of the experience. Oops, there's...
Non, c'est bon, c'était juste celle-là. Ça, on l'a déjà vu, ouais, tu peux mettre l'autre.
So, for Vast Body, in front of a camera, we ask a diverse group of people from different backgrounds to try to imagine the broadest spectrum of posture that they could think of, and to kind of map the human body into this kind of never repeating two times the same posture. We have renowned choreographer from different genres, different vocabulary, ballet, contemporary dance, Sufi, West African dance, krump, but also amateur like Caro and I, and some kids. And it was this idea of through vast diversity to explore the diversity of gestures. So they developed system to map as many variation of upper body posture as possible, arm, torso, head, and there was this kind of mathematical and geometric aspect to it to kind of be logistic, but also an anthropological angle, because since we knew that other people would kind of take control of the pictures, we had to kind of think about how the participant would behave and say, okay, they will probably do this kind of selfie move and maybe some flossing and staring alive, or anyway, just kind of imagining what a broad range of audience would do in front of the camera. And this premise was challenging even for the most experienced dancer. It was a huge challenge. We asked some of the performers to choreograph a 2 hours sequence where they wouldn't repeat twice the same. So we ended up having millions of still images that were recorded and then indexed in the database of Vast Body. And these images were distilled and analyzed by Vast Body. Edouard, our developer, coded a system that would constantly try to match the actual position of the participant. In that, don't say it's me. And on the right side, it's the picture. So recreating movement from still images. One other challenge was also to normalize the bodies, the types of body, because the visitors, the people we recorded, have different kind of bodies, and we needed to have kind of an artificial intelligence that would be able to kind of match in some way the morphology. Here we see Gabby and try to see if our system can understand what, and it was something quite beautiful about playing with the limitation and the glitch of the system. And as we were developing the project, I had a feeling that it was a kind of an interesting point in time where we were pushing the limits of the human imagination, like asking one of our greatest dancer and choreographer, Louise Le Cavalier. And even for Louise, what we were asking her was really challenging. So we were pushing the limit of human capacity, and at the same time confronting it to the limit and the capacity of artificial intelligence that was imperfect and that was trying to make sense of what it understood. And that friction between those two intelligence was quite interesting. I think that when the system becomes perfect and fluid, the project or the incarnation would be less poetic. Since we're looking at moving images and not computer graphic, the connection with the protagonist is different. At one point, you start to forget yourself, and you're becoming the other as the empathy emerge. Different body, different energies. By wanting to see the other doing specific things, you get less and less self-conscious about your own movement and kind of abandon yourself into the piece. And that was what we wanted, to just kind of engage with this other human being in front of you in the projection. In this version of the installation, a myriad of your alter ego continuously try to replicate the movement of the person facing it. So you're becoming a plethora of people at the same time. We see me. And in this other example, it's the other way around. We see a multitude of dancers becoming Louise Le Cavalier. So the incarnation is just one person. And there's no tricks. This is just recording the computer doing his thing. And we can see sometimes that there is moments where it tries to make sense, but not completely able to, and we kind of like it like that. We continue also to grow the collection of dancers. Here we collaborated with performer Kazuyo Morita and the researcher Miyuki Tanaka from the Kyoto University. And the idea was to challenge the limitation of computer vision and artificial intelligence, and with different kinds of body, because normally computer vision is based with this kind of homogenized way of body, and with this experience we were able to develop better practices that within the limits of the technology, and shine the different kind of body. Vast Body was first designed as a single interactive installation, but lately we've transformed it into this whole exhibition with multiple people being able to dance at the same time, and with also a part that is more pedagogic, where we explain how AI and computer vision works. Want to do the conclusion?
Oh. As you can see, the projects that we do are quite different, but what unifies all those projects is the invitation to interact and to participate and transform the piece depending on your personality, and that the piece becomes alive with you, and to create some kind of visceral bonds between human and the stories. And it's been a pleasure to share with you. And if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask us. Thank you.
Thank you. Grazie.
Grazie.